Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisance.
Mataji, would you like to do the Manglacharan?
Yeah, just a second. Let me wash my hands.
Okay, I can start the Manglacharan and then you continue with the rest then. In the interest of time.
Yeah, just a minute.
Oh. Hare Krishna, Urmila Ben, Danvat Pranam.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Ben Pranam.
All right, show.
All right, show. આજે કેમ હજી 3 જણા જોઈન થયા છે?
નરસિંહ ચતુર્થી ફંક્શન્સ હશે બધે, એટલે અવિનાશ ભાઈ ની ત્યાં પણ ફંક્શન છે, મંદિરમાં પણ ફંક્શન છે, એટલે આઈ થિંક કાલે આપણે નહીં રાખીએ આ ગ્રુપ, કારણ કે પછી બધા કાલે મેનરમાં જ હશે અને બીજા ફંક્શન્સ છે, એટલે પણ આજે તો કરી લઈએ. હરે કૃષ્ણ માતાજી, દંડવત પ્રણામ.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Can we hand over to you? We haven't started yet because devotees have just joined in. So,
no problem.
So we can hand over.
So we will get started. Om Namo Bhagavati. One second, Mataji.
Or should I do the Mangla Charan till you get organized, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji. Go ahead.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances from everybody who have joined the group and are about to join. Prabhuji, Mataji, I hand over to you. Hare Krishna.
All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srinivata Swagata Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. Hridayam Tastohi Apatrani Vidunoti Sugrit Sadam. Nashta Prayeshu Apatreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Buddhamasloke. Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. I just wanted to first of all thank everyone here on the call for attending this class, and I seek your blessings so that I may be able to speak the relevant words of Srila Prabhupada. My humble obeisances, dear devotees. So today we are in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, first chapter, appearance of Sri Narada. And the verse that is given to me today is the 12th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what I was planning to do was, I was planning to go over this fourth canto, the verses that has been covered so far. So you kind of get an overview of that, and then we can get started with our today's verse. And then we will see some pastimes. Again, to understand Srimad Bhagavatam from the perspective of Chaitanya Charitamrita is very interesting, because that way we are able to go and read the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, understand the Bhagavatam pastimes through that. This is how I connect to it. But then we can do that and then see if we have time for questions after that. And first of all, happy Nrsimha Jayanti to, I don't know if it is the Nrsimha Chaturdasi today for you or tomorrow. But
Mataji, it's tomorrow, but if you can tell us some pastimes as well, a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if we would have time, but we will see, Mataji. Because I was going to do it, I didn't get a confirmation from you, so I didn't prepare the pastimes. But
Mataji, I
can
think I
see.
sent you, but probably didn't.
Yeah, it was late in the night. I couldn't check it. I'm sorry, Mataji. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
It's my bad. Actually, I didn't check the message today morning also because of this
time difference. It's our
correct,
time difference.
Correct, Mataji. No problem. We can always do that at a later class, or we will see how it goes today. So let's get started with the fourth chapter. I'm very excited to discuss this topic. So let's get started without any further ado. So as I told you, understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, we should always try to question ourselves, what is the essence? What am I trying to learn? What is the overall theme of this chapter? And how am I to understand this holistically? This is something we must always ask, because there is a Bhagavatam study in 3 modes. So first, when it comes to Tamogun, you don't understand. You may go through the verses one by one, but when we don't understand the context, when we don't understand the broader picture, when we don't understand why, what, who, why, and all these questions, if they are not answered, and if you're not able to connect back to the verses, then according to Skanda Purana, this is reading Bhagavatam in the mode of Tamogun, ignorance. And we have Bhagavatam reading in the mode of passion. What is that, Mataji? What does that mean? Again, Skanda Puran says, when you're going to read Bhagavatam, say complete it within 7-day period or something of that sort, where we have Bhagavata Saptaha, trying to complete everything in that squeezed amount of time, then that is Bhagavatam reading in the mode of passion. And when it comes to Sattva, you read the translations, you understand the meaning, you understand the essence, and you get a holistic picture of what is the theme and what is the essence and for me. So this is Bhagavatam reading in the mode of goodness. That is why I very much stress the fact, again, it is coming from the Shastras. So whenever it comes from the Shastras, we need to follow it, because Shastras are like, it's like a mother. Shastras, according to Yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, Shastra is mother. When I say Shastra is mother, she always tells something for the benefit of the child, right? So likewise, Shastras, they always say, Shabda Praman is for the benefit of us. And if we don't follow Shabda Praman, then we are bound to commit offenses. Very, very important point to note it down. That is why reading Shastras is very, very important. People may talk, you may hear lectures, you may do a lot of things as a process of devotional service. But when we hear directly from the Shastras, Shabda Praman, when we directly read from the books, understand what is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam directly, by this reading, then that directly goes into our head, and then after some time we will have realization in our heart as well. So we need to always keep hankering for this Shabda Praman, because she's like a a mother. We should never forget this analogy. This analogy should keep reminding you that we need to listen to Shastras when our conditioning pulls us. Because when we follow our mother's instructions, we are happily situated, isn't it? A mother says, don't touch the fire as a child. We will not touch the fire. We will never go there because we know, we have so much faith in her. She's my mother. I will do what she wants me to do. Like that, when we have this conviction, yes, Shastras is, even if you don't understand or if you don't have the devotional maturity, you will not understand what the Shastras, why is this saying? Right now we may not be able to understand, but after some time we will get that devotional maturity, isn't it? At that point we will understand. Even if we blindly follow what Shastras has to offer us, then we are happily situated. This is the point here, devotees. Very important instructions. I felt it so close to my heart when I heard this instruction. I felt this was like very heart touching. And, obviously I then had the conviction, yes, I want to listen to Shastras. I want to follow Shastras. Even if my conditioning pulls, I want to remember the words of what Krishna has told and what the Acharyas has said. This conviction has to be with us. And some force has to pull us, isn't it? When we hear such statements, we have to take it to heart. Okay. So with this, we can get started. So I talked about Bhagavatam reading in 3 modes. This is why I stress the importance over and over again, why we need to understand Bhagavatam holistically. Go back to the translations, revise it, overall theme. What am I trying to understand from here? Because I've been used to this verse by verse reading of Bhagavatam in various other forums, and I've got lost. So this is my practical experience that is speaking here, which says that, when a speaker speaks one day, we understand the theme and everything. Okay, fine for that day. But then the next day, going back, okay, what is the connection here? Where am I lost? What am I trying to do? We need to ask ourselves this question, because I happen to go through this. I wanted to let you know, please don't make that mistake. This is the reason why I am stressing certain things, again, for the benefit of all of you. Because we don't want to waste our time and appreciate the glories of Bhagavatam. We should not forget to do that. So this is the reason why I'm doing that. So now coming back to the 4th chapter. So the first verse essentially talks about the qualities of Shaunakadi Rishi. This is the first verse. And then after that, Shaunakadi Rishi praises Sutta Goswami. And then they ask about the history of Bhagavatam. In which yuga, at which place, for what reason, and by whose inspiration did Vyasadeva actually compile Bhagavatam? Can you please elaborate on that? We want to know about the history of Bhagavatam. And then Vyasadeva's son, Sukadeva Goswami, his qualities are being described in the 4th verse of the chapter 4. So he's a great devotee. He's an equibalanced monist. He is one whose mind is always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to the mundane activities, not disturbed at all by the mundane activities. Being unexposed, he appeared ignorant. Again, a very, very important point to note here is that it takes one to know one. So Sukadeva Goswami, by his appearance, he may seem ignorant. He may seem ignorant. Again, this word seem is very important. Likewise, we may come across devotees who may seem ignorant, or they may be pure devotee in prema. We don't know. So it takes one to know one. That means to understand a prema bhakta, you have to be in that level to understand that he is a prema bhakta. Very important point that we have to note down. That is why we cannot judge anybody. No, we cannot judge, because we are not at that level to judge anyone. Though they could be elevated devotees, they could be devotees in the platform of Rahanuka Bhakti, we don't know. It takes one to know one. You have to be in that platform to know that person. Again, as a matter of fact, judging devotees means what happens is you are taking Krishna's position. See, Krishna is in the heart. He only understands everybody's heart. And if we are starting to judge, that means we are taking Krishna's role. Is that good? No. And hence we have to avoid this mistake of judging others. Very, very detrimental to devotional service. If we commit the offense of criticizing others, judging others, then slowly chances are there we may start committing offenses more and more and more. So let's not go that route. very important takeaway from the 4th verse of the 4th chapter is that Sukadeva Goswami, he appeared ignorant, but in reality he was not. He was naked, and we may assume, oh yeah, he's naked, he doesn't even have common sense. Things of that nature will come and creep in our material mind. Okay, so we need to definitely not commit the aparat of even misunderstanding the devotees in the pastime. This is another important point. We may come across pastimes, okay, very, very confidential pastimes we may come across in Bhagavatam, and let's not use our material mindset to understand and interpret those pastimes. This is again an aparat. We will not do that. Let's take a walk. I'm telling it right in the beginning of starting of Bhagavatam itself, so that as we delve deep into these pastimes, we may have the mentality to do so, because our mind is material at this point. To be, we have to understand reality, and we have to be practical, isn't it? Our mind is material now. It is not yet purified. So very, very important takeaways here. Please note it down, dear devotees. And then the 5th verse, I think we will go through, and I think I have some points that I have that I wanted to share from some of the verses here. So we will do that. So the first is what time and what place Srimad Bhagavatam appeared, because it is very important to know how this is the history of Bhagavatam, that the questions of history of Bhagavatam that is being asked about, isn't it? Which place, how did it appear, how did Srimad Bhagavatam appear? This is a great work. Who got the inspiration, and who wrote Srimad Bhagavatam? Where does Krishna Dvaipayana come from? How did he create the Samhita? What prompted him to create the Samhita? Bhagavatam is called Samhita. Again, it's a very important keyword that is used. Samhita means, what is Samhita? Something that brings full benefit to the benefits of all, a universal benefit to all. That is the important understanding. Bhagavatam is called Samhita. So Shaunakadi Rishis are again and again emphasizing that in his eyes, Srimad Bhagavatam stands at the same level as 4 Samhitas. What are the 4 Samhitas? The 4 original Vedas are called the 4 Samhitas. So Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva. Bhagavatam is the natural commentary of the Vedas, isn't it? So because the essence of Vedas, Bhakti, and again, Bhagavatam also talks about the essence of Bhagavatam is Bhakti. So in that way, it's a natural commentary of the Vedas. So this is what is the understanding. It's called Samhita here, which is an important keyword. Which is seen in verse number 3. Okay, all right. Now moving on to the 4th verse. So 4th verse here is talking about, essentially, as I said, qualities of Sukadeva Goswami, isn't it? Very important things, as we talked about some of the learning lessons, how and what type of aparat we should not commit. Apart from that, what can we learn from this verse? Samadrik means a person who can penetrate behind the shell. Okay, so he doesn't get attached to these material things, but he can understand the essence that is behind this material things. So that is Samadrik, and he's able to see in essence the totality of everything. And Nirvikalpapak that is another terminology that is being used. This is the vision of the world. In accordance with the theory of perceptions of Vedas, when I see the object, I have not yet recognized the object. I see something, but I really don't understand what it is. That means this is generally the vision or perception of a baby. A baby, he sees the object, isn't it? He sees the objects of the world, but he doesn't understand who he is. Some uncle and auntie are coming to visit me, but who is it? What is the relationship between me and them? He sees something, but he really doesn't know what it is. This is Nirvikalpa. Vikalpa is what distinguishes, right? That I can distinguish this and that. When Nirvikalpa means I don't distinguish. I look at the world, but I'm not interested in this world. I really don't see anything in this world. I just see, I don't see the differences in it, because I see Brahman. I see the spiritual reality, which is what is giving rise to these differences, which are interesting to us. Of course, we are mostly interested in differences. What is this? What is that? Who's this person? Who's that person? We are interested in differences. This is man, this is women. And suddenly, if we stop seeing differences, life becomes so, absurd to us. We feel like as if we have lost the meaning of our life. The point is, as material human beings, we always want to look for differences. But with the case of Sukadev Goswami, he looks at this world, but he sees no differences to these things. He sees, he is not at all interested. He knows who's the origin, who gives rise to these differences. And he sees just that, right? Completely, that is what is the point. So we need to understand that terminology that Srila Prabhupada uses in context of four. And then Srila Prabhupada, he says that this person, he is Nidra, I think Unidra. He's transcendental to mundane activities. It also means he who's above the modes of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada devotes, that's what he's denoting. He's above the modes of ignorance. He's not, he is one who has completely defeated sleep or ignorance, one who's no longer under the influence of ignorance. And then he did not completely show off his position. This person, Sukadev Goswami, he's so superior, isn't it, in terms of position? But he was like Muda. He appeared like a holy fool. Although, I mean, that is why I said it takes one to know one. So what is surprising in itself is that how does this person say, I mean, how do we say these people recognized? How do we understand, right? What are the qualities of Sukadev Goswami? So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nashoshati Nakangshati. One gets bhakti, then they attain this platform of Brahman. So now we see here that Sukadev Goswami, so first of all, to speak to him, you should understand that he's a great sage, right? Very, very important that when we are talking to somebody, we should understand what is the glory of that person. What is the, because when we understand their transcendental glory, obviously there is going to be more appreciation to that person. This is the important. So now we have to essentially understand that Suta Goswami is actually hearing from Sukadev Goswami, and that is why here we see Sukadev Goswami is glorified, because they are going to hear from Suta Goswami. And now when we understand who did he hear Bhagavatam from, we understand how glorious is his teacher and how glorious he is as a student who's coming from this teacher. This is the connection there. And then if you go to the 5th verse, we are talking about bathing of the naked damsels. What happened? They covered their bodies when they saw Vyasadeva passing by, but they did not do so when they saw naked Sukadev Goswami was passing. And astonished Vyasadeva, he inquired from them about this. They replied that Vyasadeva made distinctions between male and female, while his son did not. So there is absolutely some points that we can learn from here. Mataji, what are the points? Yes, it is described that these ladies, they were bathing in the lake of Badrikashram. They were all apsaras. So they decided to bathe in Badrikashram, where the water was very, very clean, right? And then Shukadev Goswami, they passed. I mean, when he passed, they didn't do anything. And then when Vyasadeva passed the same route, they covered their bodies, right? This is the point. And what is the understanding here? Why are they behaving so strangely? Why did when my younger son come, you were all, why didn't you shy away? They said, he is Vivikta Drishte, because he is absolutely clean. We looked at him, we understood everything by his ego. We understood his heart. They possess this ability. They possess the ability to understand the heart of people. Vivikta Drishte. They had, they are saying this person, Sukadev Goswami, he had an absolutely clean look. His ego, we looked at him, we understood everything by everything by the look. We understood his heart. This is Vedic psychology, right? Vedic psychology is this. It is an art to look at a position and understand what is this inside him. These women, they were specialists in Vedic psychology, right? So we need to understand how they are coming up with this revelation, right? They can't blindly say, oh yeah, this is what it is. No, they can understand the heart. And that is why, looking at the heart of Sukadev Goswami, they saw it was pretty clean. So actually, the most amazing glorification or illustration of quality of Sukadev Goswami is Nirvikalpa. So this is very important, and we understood what is nirvikalpa. He looks at the world but doesn't have anything connected. I mean, he doesn't bother about this world for any reason. He doesn't look at the differences. He just knows what is the source that is responsible for all of this, and that is the way that is his vision. Okay. And now in the next verse, as the residents of Hastinapur or province, they knew, okay, actually the next question they are going to ask is Sukadeva Goswami about is, how did the Hastinapur residents recognize Sukadeva Goswami, who appeared like a madman, a dumb or a retarded person? How did these people recognize Sukadeva Goswami? Can you please elaborate on us? Can you please tell us in detail, so that we need to understand what happened between them? How do these people recognize him? We saw from the previous verse, he appeared like a holy fool, isn't it? So how did they recognize him? He's appears like a madman, a dumb and a retarded person. Can you please help us understand this? And then the 7th verse obviously talks about how did the meeting and conversation of Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami take place, through which Srimad Bhagavatam appeared. What happened between them? Can you please help me? But again, a very important thing is coming up now. If you look at verse 7 to 12, they are glorification of greatness of Maharaj Parikshit. The 6th verse ends with the questions regarding Sukadeva Goswami and his description, his glorification. But then, starting from 7th verse to 12th verse, what are we going to see? We are going to see the glorification of the greatness of Maharaj Parikshit. Again, the point that is stressed here is that please pay attention, that more attention is paid to the listener than the narrator. The listener's qualifications receive more attention than the qualifications of the narrator. So our mood should be, whoever the narrator is, no problem. But how am I? What consciousness am I? Am I listening properly? Am I serving Srimad Bhagavatam? Am I trying to understand the essence? What is it in for me? How can I reform or transform myself? There is an emergency. Right now is an emergency. Anything can happen to us anytime. Nothing is in our control. When we keep reminding ourselves this point that our life is so temporary, and I always keep telling this to my children and other devotees as well. So if you look at some cities in the world or some countries in the world, they don't have the fortune of even relishing Krishna consciousness in a very they are being they are banned. Krishna consciousness is banned in some countries. Imagine, as Kali Yuga progresses, we may be banned to do Krishna consciousness. With so much struggle, we may have to continue our process of devotional service. Why should we go through that? So there should always be that sense of urgency, and we need to strive. We need to somehow attain perfection. That vigor must be there. Otherwise, that if that enthusiasm is not there, then we may easily slack down. Okay, so we definitely need to understand. Okay, this is urgent. I need to progress somehow, and for that, I need to hear. I need to associate with the right things. Associating with the right literature. Associating with the right people. Eating the right food stuff. All this is association, right? Whom are we associating with during the day matters, and it takes care of our Krishna consciousness for the day. And it also takes over to the next day, because what happens today determines what will happen tomorrow, right? I mean, I'm just talking about consciousness here. So those are the takeaways. So now we need to understand the listener has to be very, very attentive. The listener's qualification is more important than the speaker's qualifications. Okay, coming back to the 7th verse, right? And the 7th verse is talking about how did this conversation happen between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami, through which Srimad Bhagavatam appeared. Can you please elaborate on that? Srimad Bhagavatam, obviously, this is how the conversation took place, right? Because they are very surprised. We know Sukadeva Goswami, he doesn't even talk to householders. He comes to that particular house just to clean the house, meaning to purify the house, he comes there. He drinks a glass of milk and he leaves. Where is the time? How did such a busy person like Sukadeva Goswami be sat in the banks of the Ganges for 7 days, that too with Parikshit Maharaj? He sat for 7 days with Parikshit Maharaj, who was not just a householder, but a king, the emperor of the whole world. How did this happen? He was such a renounced person. He walked from house to house, knocked on the door, and did not even knock sometimes, just drank the milk and left immediately. He was not interested in anything this world has to offer. What interested him to talk to Sukadev Goswami? What interested him to talk to Parikshit Maharaj? That to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam interested him. Milk, of course, it's not interesting to him, isn't it? He didn't want to talk about, okay, how many cows did you have? How many milk does your cow produce? What type of milk is it? Do you add water to it? Does he ask these questions to these people whom he meets? No. He just wants to purify those people. Therefore, he drank their milk. And when he needed to tell Bhagavatam, he could do it for 7 days. He told Bhagavatam without any interruption. Sometimes in ecstasy, he would faint. Right? He tells, so they tell in ISKCON, sometimes in ISKCON, 2 storytellers are there. But what happens is some people fall asleep at the lecture on the Bhagavatam, isn't it? And this is a slightly different scenario. We're not talking about that kind of sleeping, right? We are talking about Sukadev Goswami. He would get lumps in his throat, meaning sometimes he would talk about something which is very, very deep, and he would get lump of tears appear. It would appear in his throat, and he wants to cry, and he could not talk. And this is how it is embarrassing, isn't it? You want to suppress this feelings somehow, but it's impossible to cry completely from the eyes. This is what happens to Sukadev Goswami. He spoke and didn't know what to do at those times. So it was said that Maharaj Janamejaya, who's the son of Parikshit Maharaj, was also present at the event when Sukadev Goswami told Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And he was also present. Why? Because when Sukadev Goswami fainted, they began to play kirtan to bring him to senses. Because Janmejaya wanted him to finish saying Srimad Bhagavatam, so that if something were to happen to his father, Parikshit, there is no question of Parikshit leaving this world without hearing Srimad Bhagavatam to the end. So this is the point. So, obviously his son wanted Parikshit Maharaj to hear and relish the Srimad Bhagavatam in entirety. So whenever Sukadev Goswami would go into ecstasy, they will always try to bring him to senses. This is how ecstatic the Srimad Bhagavatam is. So that is why the realization happens according to how you actually reciprocate with Srimad Bhagavatam. How, in what mood you are serving Bhagavatam, to that mood you will get recognition. To that extent you will get revelation. Srimad Bhagavatam has to descend. The mercy has to come from our acharyas. The mercy has to descend down. We don't have control over that. Because it is non-different from Krishna. Like how we chant our glories of the holy names of the Lord, when we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the mercy has to descend down. Till then, we don't connect with the Lord. The mercy has to descend down. So we need to definitely understand at least the mood now theoretically, so that when it comes to practice, slowly, having this theoretical concept, we will start to imbibe it in our life. Okay, so now going on to the 9th verse. So this is what 7th and 8th verse talk about. And then the 9th verse, they are all about, 9th to 12th verse, they are all about questions of Parikshit Maharaj. So 9th verse actually begins with the glorification of Parikshit Maharaj. Oh Suta, tell us about the son. Tell us about this person. If he is the best of the Muni, at the level of Bhagavan, who is at the level of God himself, then tell us about the best of devotees of the Lord. We want to know about him. We want to know about him. Parikshit Maharaj, we want to know about him. We want to know about his birth. How amazingly, because Krishna, we understand his birth is so special because Krishna appeared before him. Right? Srimad Bhagavatam says he in the womb of Uttara, Krishna in the womb of Uttara saved him. We would want to know about that. Isn't it? It's Maha Ashcharyam. It is very amazing. Because his deeds are related to how he defeated Kali. He is able to be in the reign to completely limit Kali. Although the time was given to Kali, how did he rule the world, protecting millions of people from the influence of Kali. We want to know about his glory. His deeds are amazing. Tell us about him. Tell us about him. Right? He's always looking for God. Why? What is the reason? He's always looking, everywhere he's looking for God. So this is very important. There's a little bit of a pastime, interesting story. How Parikshit Maharaj, he sat on the lap of King Yudhishthira, Maharaj Yudhishthira, and Krishna sat next to him. There were other great sages, and the Pandavas were also sitting with him. And Parikshit Maharaj played with him, because at that time he had no father, but he had his grandfather Yudhishthira, and he played with him. Parikshit looked at Krishna and began to smile and rejoice. And then he looked somewhere else and became sad. Sad, serious, and perplexed. Okay. So then again, Krishna was also in the company of Pandavas, isn't it? So then he looked up again and looked down, and then again he got perturbed and he became disturbed and he put his face down and he was upset. Finally, Yudhishthira is asking Krishna, why is this fellow acting so strangely? I'm not able to understand. Suddenly, at one point, he gets a smile and he rejoices looking at you. And then after a minute, he just becomes so sad, upset, and perturbed. This is a kind of looking very strange. What's the problem? What's the thing? Why does he look at your face and rejoice? And then why does he upset? And then what's going on here? Can you help me understand? Krishna, he said, he saw me in the womb. He looks at my face and he thinks, it is he. I can understand it is he. Then he looks a little lower and he sees my two hands. Because at the time when I showed him, revealed myself in the womb, I showed him 4 hands. But when he looks at me down, he's able to see only 2 hands. Not he. So it's not him. Then he becomes upset. So till the point where he doesn't see my hands, he looks very rejoiced because he understands it's him. But then once he starts looking at my hands, understands I have 2 hands, not 4, then he becomes upset. It's not him. Right? In other words, from his infancy, what happened was Parikshit Maharaj searched and searched for Krishna. He rejoiced when he saw Krishna himself. In the end, Krishna actually showed him the 4 arms. And then he said, it is him. And he was delighted. That is the glory of Parikshit Maharaj. Always tested, Parikshit, testing everybody to see where is Krishna. Right? This is the eagerness of Parikshit Maharaj wanting to test. And that's the pastime connected with that. And then coming back to 10. Verse number 10. What is verse number 10 saying? Maharaj Parikshit, he was a great emperor and bowed down by all enemies, increasing the prestige of Pandu dynasty, the young and powerful, possessing all kingly opulences. Why did he give up everything? He's such a king. Why did he give up everything to sit on the bank of Ganges and that too fast until death? Right? Why? What is the reason he decided to fast before death? So, such a kingly, such a opulent person with so much opulence and kingdom, wealth that he possesses. He has so much prestige, honor. He is young and powerful. What is the reason he's such a great emperor? Why did he sit on the banks of the Ganges and decided to fast before death? Can you please help us understand? These are the questions they are inquiring about Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, so now the 12th verse, that is the verse for today, it talks about, so now you're able to see the connection, what's going on here, isn't it? This type of connection is needed to help us understand Bhagavatam very much. Then we will be able to appreciate, yes, I'm getting the flow now, I'm able to connect the dots, I'm able to understand why, what, how, at least to an extent possible. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, our acharyas like Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura, they have so nicely elaborated Srimad Bhagavatam, right? At least for us to understand and enjoy and appreciate the glories. So we need to make the best use of what we have to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So now the 12th verse, what does it say? Obviously we saw all the qualities And the 12th verse, when Shamik Rishi learned that his son Shringi had cursed Parikshit Maharaj, he said the same thing. How dare you did this? You know, king is the shelter, a refuge for everyone. So many living entities, including us, are being protected and given shelter of by the king. And why did you do this? He has the responsibility to others, isn't it? He does not live for his own sake. When you are a king, you don't live for your own sake. You live for others because you have the responsibility for others. So sometimes we may think, well, I don't care. I can leave. Why? But people, they depend on you. How can I leave? Sometimes a spiritual master thinks in this way. He thinks, I can completely leave this world, but what will happen to my students or devotees, my disciples, if I leave the world? This responsibility or compassion of a Vaishnava is exactly what we say is hidden in this topic, in the chapter. So how a Vaishnava is so compassionate, right? How his compassion is described is something that we would understand in this topic. So, sorry, Mataji, my son has come. 1 second. Sorry, Mataji, I'm really sorry for interrupting the flow. I'm sure you're all hopefully with me. Hare Krishna. Okay. All right. So we were just talking about the compassion of a Vaishnava, isn't it? So this is again coming from the Lord. The original quality of God's compassion is what a Vaishnava has. And Srila Prabhupada describes the greatness of his reign, explaining how many people depended on him, yet he did something that actually countered to their interest. This is the point. In fact, he did something actually that countered their interest, but it was for a higher good. That is the point. He decided to fast and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. This is actually an even higher form of compassion. Very higher form of compassion, because it is going to not only benefit his praja, but the whole world and generations to come. Isn't it? Isn't that glorious? This is the mood of a Vaishnava. He doesn't think first of all about himself. He thinks about others. And here, he's just not thinking about just his praja, but the entire human world and generations to come. Which is the point which is being talked about here as an essence of today's verse. Very important point, dear devotees. We need to understand that what is the reason why Parikshit Maharaj did what he did. Because again, we may just, for an interim period, we may say, yes, Parikshit Maharaj is there, but what will happen to his praja? Till now, Kali has not entered into the reign. Because of Parikshit Maharaj, now that Parikshit Maharaj is going to leave this world, what will happen to the people of Kali? We are getting the answer here. We have Srimad Bhagavatam. That is given to us by the mercy of Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami. Krishna himself has come into this world. Wherever there is Krishna, there is no Maya there, isn't it? So wherever there is sunlight, there is no darkness. Wherever there is Krishna, there is no darkness. Kali cannot enter if we are in touch with the Lord. This is the point that is being conveyed here. So there is again, we do have some time. So we talked about obviously some of the things that again, from verse number 1 to verse number 12, we just saw the flow, and now I will go to the Chaitanya Charitamrita pastimes to help us understand what are some of the pastimes that we can actually relate from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela to connect with this Bhagavatam insight. Okay, again, I know we've spoken about Murari Gupta. They were all, they were classmates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was classmates and intimate friends right from the early days of childhood. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he returned from Gaya and revealed his super excellent manifestation of his divine love and began propagating the holy names of the Lord. And Murari Gupta was one of his first and intimate disciples and his associates. We all know he was an Ayurvedic doctor by profession. And this love that he had for the Lord, it is now explained here. How he would actually, when people come to him, being an Ayurvedic doctor, when people come to him, he would actually he would actually cure their body, mind, and soul. So what he would do is, by giving them proper medicines, he would cure not only their body, but also give so much care and affection. He would cure the pains of the mind too, by giving them the names of Krishna, by giving them Harinam, Sankirtan. He would cure their very soul. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are so many hospitals, there are so many polyclinics, there are so many doctors with their private practices, but the world does not know what the real disease is. Therefore, despite of so much advancement in medical and technical things in our civilization, the sufferings of humanity gets worse and worse. What is the reason? What is the nature of a Vaishnava? Not just to give some relief to the body, but make him understand what is the purpose of this body. Everybody is doing that. There are millions of doctors in the world. There are hundreds and thousands of hospitals in the world. Murari Gupta understood the purpose of the body is to get self-realization. And this is what he imparted to others. When we heal their body, I just don't give them the purpose of the body is to utilize your body for sense gratification. No. In fact, when I heal their body, I tell them, first of all, this diseases is due to, Murari Gupta tells their patients, whoa, see, first of all your diseases is due to bad karma. You are just exhausting your bad karma, which in one sense is good. So if I fix their body and now they become very healthy and strong, what will they do? They will perform more bad karma. What type of charity am I doing? Right? Again, the doctor doesn't get paid for what he does. Right? I mean, here Murari Gupta is not getting paid for his services. He does it as a service to others. So that's why we see it's not a charity that he's doing. If he doesn't educate the patients about body, mind, and soul, then what's the point? If he's just treating the body and he's not talking about the higher good, same, what will this person do? This person will again and again commit bad karma. Again, he will have more diseases. Again, he has to come to the doctor. The cycle is going to repeat. So it's like when a person is given enough rope to hang himself. That's what we are doing. We are giving him the rope to hang himself. So in the name of compassion, Murari Gupta was such a doctor that after healing, so he was such a compassionate doctor that after healing, what he would do, he will heal and help them understand the purpose of this human form of life. It is not meant for sense gratification. It is not meant for economic development. It is only meant for Krishna consciousness, right? To awaken the nature of love of Godhead is what he would talk about. What is this disease that is preventing us from realizing this ecstatic mood of love within the hearts of people? It is illusion and Maya. What is the cure for the disease of Maya? Krishna. Krishna's presence, Maya cannot exist there. And so this is how he cured the disease of ignorance and suffering. It is the Maha Mantra he spoke about. It is the glories of the holy names he chanted and made them chant. It is the only way a Vaishnava can find any fulfillment or purpose in this life. If a person is able to understand his disease of ignorance, which is the cause of suffering in this material world, that is what he wanted to propagate. And this is the cause of suffering, he says. Murari Gupta, he didn't care for money. He never begged. He never accepted charity. He would maintain himself. Of course, Lord is the maintainer of everybody. And he understood that. For those who understand Lord is the maintainer, Lord will maintain them. Without depending on anybody, he lived his life. Because he did great seva. And he became more dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, connecting back to the story helps us understand that we have a purpose to utilize this body. We sometimes have to have this repetitive statements being said. Why? Because Prabhupada says this statement, right? We are not the body, we are the soul. But how much we understand, right? to the extent we understand it, to that extent we have to keep reminded ourselves of this particular statement. Some shastric statements have to go deep into our heart. For that, we have to keep hearing it over and over again. That's when it will go. Repetition helps us to understand the reason why we are here in this world. We have to keep repeatedly hearing the Shastras. You should not say, no, I know it. You don't know it. We know it theoretically, maybe, and that too not fully. So we need to keep hearing it again and again and again till it actually reaches our heart. Okay, so that's definitely needed as far as Shastric study goes. Oh, Mataji, sometimes people keep talking about the same thing. No, they're not talking about the same thing. We need to understand and accept that concept, not only just theoretically, but within our heart, and be convinced to practice it in our real life. Okay. So this is very important because, this is a very normal question that can come to people. Why hear the repetitive things again and again when in fact I know things? No, we don't know anything. That should be the mood. First of all, we don't know anything. We have to accept, and we have to accept that humility has to come to us. We don't know anything. Krishna has to reveal me something, and Krishna has to help me transform so that I'm not in such a wretched condition as I'm now. Okay, I do have more pastimes, but I want to leave at least 5 minutes for question and answers. So let's just take some question and answers if we have any. So I'll conclude here now with this pastime, and we will see if we have questions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Sorry, Mataji, today it's a very small group.
No problem.
And people are busy with services at the temple because of the festival tomorrow. So is Narsimha Chaturthi today at your place?
Yes, Mataji, today it's Narsimha Chaturthi for us, and definitely we want to pray to Lord Narsimhadev to remove all the obstacles that we have in the process of devotional service. Sometimes, we will not be able to do devotional service the way we want it, isn't it? So many obstacles come, even though our heart desires, we will not be able to do. Something is stopping us. There could be a lot of blockage that could happen, isn't it? So when we pray to Narsimhadev with sincerity and devotion, that Narsimhadev, please protect me from all the obstacles that I see on the path of devotional service, then he will definitely help us get there. Because again, we need to, so it's all about faith. At the end of the day, we know ye tamam prapatyante, right? From Bhagavad Gita, we saw that to the extent you surrender, accordingly the Lord reciprocates to you. So we should have this component of faith. The mother component must be there, so that we get all the auspiciousness in our life that we would want. So we definitely have to do that with sincerity and pray to Narsimhadev, and he's so merciful. That is the mood. We want to worship Lord Radha and Krishna, and for that we seek protection from Narsimhadev, so that we don't have any obstacles to this path of devotional service.
Thank you very much, Mataji, and we pray for you as well. You have been giving us your association for such a long time. It's more than a year now. So we also pray that Lord Narsimha removes all the obstacles, and that you can always keep on joining us and pouring your nectar.
Oh, thank you, Mataji. That would be my pleasure. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Really means a lot to me.
Sincere prayers.
Thank you.
I'll request Prahlad, who was born on Narsimha Chaturdashi, and Prahlad Prabhu, kindly close the session for today.
Hare Krishna. First, I would like to thank Her Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji for giving us this wonderful nectar on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and as well as a few pastimes as well. So thank you, Mataji, for this. I would also like to thank the devotees for joining in and tuning on to this Zoom program and listening to Her Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji. So Mataji, on behalf of ISKCON Eldoret, we would all like to thank you. So I would like to kindly request all the devotees assembled to Please unmute yourselves and let's chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra once for Her Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya
Sindhubhya Vacha
patitanam
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha.
Namo
Srila
Namaha.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. Her Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji ki
Jai.
Jai.
Glories to the
Prabhupada.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol. Thank you, Prahlad Prabhu. Very nice to call your name such an auspicious day. Really, you're blessed. You're very, very blessed. It's not an easy thing to be born on this day and get such a
Yes.
beautiful name. It's definitely a blessing. You must have had a lot of Bhakti Kruti. I can see
Yes,
that.
Mataji.
Definitely, I'm blessed to be
Mataji.
associated with you as well. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Have an auspicious celebration of Nrsimha Chaturdashi tomorrow.
Thank you, Mataji,
Thank
and
you,
you have
Mataji.
it today.